giving people hope. So if you want to change the world, I repeat, start singing when you are up to your neck in mud. All right. So I re-looked at that story and I saw something. I re-looked at this story after I saw a rerun of Swordfish. How many of you have seen the movie Swordfish? How many of you have not seen the movie Swordfish? Shame on y'all. That's the movie. You gotta watch this movie. You owe it to yourself. So I was watching Swordfish, which is kind of one of my favorite movies. And they got to the part of the scene where he quoted Houdini. And he said Houdini was a master magician. And what made him a master magician was his ability to make an elephant sitting in the room disappear. In a room full of people. He said he could make an elephant disappear in a room full of people. Was because of misdirection. Misdirection. And it's what all magicians use to do their tricks. Misdirection. Here's the definition of misdirection. It's a form of deception in which the attention of the audience is focused on one thing in order to distract its attention from another. Managing the audience's attention is the aim of all theater. It is the foremost requirement of theatrical magic. Misdirection. The ability to take the mind of the audience and place it on one thing so that your attention is diverted from what the real issue is. Wow. Misdirection. Let me see my blade. Coming up in my family, I used the trick without knowing what it was. I'm not a magician. I'm just a dad. I'm just a dad who like to have fun. I like to laugh, get a laugh every now and then. So one day, my daughter came to me, and she had hurt some part of her body. I think it was her toe or her leg or something. And she came in, and she was telling me with great detail how her leg was hurting, her toe was hurting. Again, I don't remember what part of her body it was, but I know she was in pain, and I know she was crying. So she came in telling me this story. I said, go get me a knife. She looked bewildered for a second. She was still crying because she was really hurt. I mean, whatever she had done, she was hurt, so she was crying. I said, really? Go get me a knife. She went and got me a knife. I said, get a big one now. Don't get the little butter knife. I said, get a big one. So she came back in with the big knife. And I said, so what did you do? I hurt my leg. I said, really? Crying and everything. I said, put your leg on the table. I said, let me see it. So I'm looking at the leg, and she rubbing the place where it was hurting and this, that, and the other. I said, give me your hand. She put her hand on the table, and I give me your hand. So I said, here's how to stop the pain in your leg. We're going to cut your hand off. She looked at me like, she stopped crying. She started crying. And I said, all right, here, you ready? You ready? And she was like, what are you? No. And I got I turned the knife around. I said, come on, here we go. She was like, no, what are you doing? I said, your leg is hurting. We got to cut your hand off. walked out. I said, here, put this one back in the drawer. It's the power of misdirection. It didn't mean that she didn't hurt her leg, but I had to take her attention off of what was hurting and put it on another part of her body that wasn't hurting, that needed protection. And so now all of a sudden her mind was more on protecting this than the leg hurting, and the leg stopped hurting. So misdirection. It's in the story that we just read, and I saw it. It just blew up out of the story again. I was like, oh my God. They're all up to their necks in mud, and they've been in this situation for 15 hours. And the reality of the situation was taking place, and it was gripping all of them, some stronger than others, but yet all of them in the same situation, and some ready to give up. And somebody, one person out of all of them started singing out of tune. Started singing. Paraphrase, can't sing. But knew how to misdirect. I've got to get my mind off of this situation. So I'm going to create another situation that will help us, help me get out of this. He starts singing. He starts singing out of tune. Next thing you know, somebody else joins him. Next thing you know, somebody else joins him. Next thing you know, they're all singing, and their situation didn't change, but it changed. They're still in the mud, up to their necks, with 8 hours left to go. The mud is still cold. The dawn is still 8 hours away. But now, because our minds have been misdirected, what the eyes see and the ears hear, the mind will believe. What the eyes see and the ears hear, the mind will believe. The mind will believe anything that you tell it. Anybody that stays around me for any length of time will say something to me. Oh, it's cold outside, Pastor. I say, it's all in your mind. Anybody ever heard me say that? It's all in your mind. It's whatever you tell your mind it is. That's why we got to watch what we say. And some of us talk ourselves into situations. We talk ourselves into the way we feel. We talk ourselves into the way we see things. That's why it's that way for you and nobody else. In the same environment, you're the one that's going through what you're going through. Because you've talked yourself into it. Your mind is convinced that it's this way. Watch this. And has no solution for it because you don't give it any options. I say your mind has no solutions because you won't offer it any. You won't say anything different. You agree with what your mind is saying. It's cold in here. It's cold in here. And true enough, it could be. But in the midst of that situation, I'm promising you, you can have something else if you will give your mind another option. It's called misdirection. But we often miss things when we're misdirected. One of the greatest misdirections that ever took place was when Jesus died on the cross. I tell you, it's the most amazing thing ever. The Roman soldiers are crucifying him. His disciples are gathered round at the base of the cross. His mother's at the base of the cross. And everybody's looking up at him on the cross, and he's dying. But everybody's looking at the cross. So much so that they can't see the grave. And that was the misdirection. The cross was the misdirection to the grave. The scripture said if Satan had known, but because he was looking at the victory that he thought he had in putting him on the cross, he missed the sleight of hand. He missed the real trick because the plan was not in the cross. The plan was in the resurrection. Satan is like, yes, I finally got rid of him. I sent Herod. I sent all the other kings of the earth. I sent the Pharisees. I sent the Sadducees. Everybody was conspiring against this dude to kill him. And I finally got him. They having a party. And they didn't see the grave. And the trick was the grave all the time and the resurrection. Because when he got up, the trick ended.